session, feedback, how to deliver effective feedback. My hopes and dreams today would be that you're able to think about the feedback that you've received and also how you give feedback, whether that's formally as a leader or informally to your workmates as well. And it's so fun to have everybody here. And again, for those of you that joined in last week, we're trying to develop a bit more of some camaraderie here to build our webinar team. So what we love is hearing the feedback from you, thumbs up, thumbs down, that kind of thing. So throughout our time, I will be asking questions, and feel free to use the emoji button then function that you find. And thank you for all your good mornings as well. That just makes my day. I hope everybody's able to get outside today and enjoy the sunshine. Although I will tell you, we've been out walking, my family, and we've been finding ticks, guys. They're out. And they're those little tiny ones that like to attach. So that's your PSA for the day. Watch out for the ticks. So back to feedback. As I said, I hope that you're able to think about the feedback that you give, effective feedback that you've received, and maybe even some of that feedback that wasn't so great, that left a bad taste. Right? So let's hop into it. Workplace Education Manitoba, that's where you've landed this morning. We're helping people to develop essential skills that are needed for work, learning, and life. And coming up, I have a little slide about those essential skills. Just to remind you, our vision is to have Manitobans have access to all the essential skills, knowledge, and training required to determine and pursue their goals related to learning, the workplace, and life. And again, feedback, guys, there's so many different areas and arenas in life where we both give and receive feedback. And so consider that not just in the workplace, but maybe at home with friends, all of that. Feedback is a communication skill. And so that's something that I believe all of us can always improve on, is our communication. I think we maybe have noticed that more than ever during this time that we're in. We'd also like to express appreciation to the following for supporting the development of this continuous learning skills curriculum, Employment and Social Development Canada, and Manitoba Education and Training. And we also acknowledge that this project was jointly funded through Human Resource Skills Development Canada and Entrepreneurship Training and Trade. And if you would like more information, feel free to visit our website, wem.mb.ca, or contact info@wem.mb.ca. So essential skills, those of you that are like, what? We're always talking about the essential skills. What are they? Well, let's take a look at this pyramid. The baseline here, reading text, document use, numeracy, writing, and digital technology. And I know some of you will be looking forward to hiring people. And so those are some of those basic essential skills. If you visit our website at weminterlake.ca, you'll notice that we have some workshops coming up, including dealing, well, it's money math, right? Dealing with our customers and how to give proper change and this sort of thing. This was something that was identified in a focus group that we had a few months back, that this was a skill that was lacking. And as you can see, some of those are basic essential skills. Then we look at the green layer here, competency, our oral communication, which is what we're working on today. We're working with this whole green layer, working with others, thinking skills, continuous learning. And then we apply on top of that knowledge, skills, and ability. And each one of us has our own unique, as well as our coursework on the job. And then we land with the golden aha skilled workforce, right? So those are our essential skills. That's something that you're interested in. There's always a lot of information on our website about essential skills and what they are and how we use them. So today, looking at the importance of communication for effective coaching and feedback, how to use those principles of adult learning, as well as performing positive and corrective feedback. Now, question, I'm going to ask, how often do you deliver feedback? And then we'll drill it down. So how often are you delivering feedback in the workplace? Would you say it's daily? Any thumbs up, thumbs down for that? Daily feedback? Informal or formal? Yeah, good. What about weekly? Those of you maybe not daily, but maybe a couple times a week? Less than that. How about monthly? Thanks, Stephen. Yeah, informal feedback weekly. Diane would daily. Definitely. And it's so important that we do that. Why? Anybody want to add to the chat as to why we need to be delivering feedback that frequently? I think of especially as we hire new people, or we give people new tasks, or even how things have maybe reconfigured in your workplace, how important it is for that reassurance that we're on the right page. Yeah, definitely. Amy will be able to work more effectively. And it's important when we have feedback that we're also building trust. If we don't have trust in our team or in ourselves, thinking back to maybe some of our training on trust, how that ripple starts with us. If we do not have that, delivering feedback will not only be awkward, it may even be damaging. And to be able to have better and more effective communication will help us to be better at delivering feedback. And like I said, if we combine all of those things, one word comes to mind, it's screaming in my mind, is trust, building trust with our team. So it's one of those most critical communication tools necessary for a healthy workplace. Both positive and corrective feedback are essential for true team to flourish. And I think of a certain workplace that I've been at, where they have a giant island, countertop. And when there are issues, whether it's problem solving or dealing with issues, right? They bring it to the island. I was just telling Rochelle about this and how wonderful it was to be in that environment. And I was there during some tricky times as well. And to be able to see that flow of communication and information, and how it was the real focus on what was happening versus who was happening. And it's very fascinating to me that when we are able to have a workplace where we can have that true and effective dialogue, how much more productive we are. I've been in other workplaces as well, not necessarily as a trainer, but just as a customer, where you can tell that positive and corrective feedback is not happening in an effective way. And it leads to morale issues as well. So yeah, oops, did I skip too many, guys? Feedback is a process where both parties are truly listening, processing, and then responding. And that's part of that thinking process we touched on a few seconds ago about essential skills. Thinking is one of them. And so when we're delivering the feedback, but also when we're receiving it, being able to process the information and what's truly being said. And again, clear communication. This dialogue is vital, it's on track, it's respectful and thoughtful. Sometimes when we're delivering feedback, if we're in a heated state ourselves, that communication isn't always as respectful as it could be or as thoughtful. And so with that clear communication, we're able to land on shared understanding, and then we have an environment that encourages and supports problem solving going forward. And again, we're focused on what happened, and at times we are focused on who went wrong as well, but the main focus in problem solving is to be able to move it forward, is to understand what went wrong and why. And I think that that's a huge thing that maybe some of you have received in the past, where the feedback was given, but it was more of a focus on blame or shame as opposed to problem solving. And when we consider it in a problem solving lens, we're able to have that better communication. Now, how many of you would say that you know what your communication skill set is, for better or for worse? Oh, yeah. I know what mine are. I know that they can be varied depending my audience, which is also challenging. And yeah, it's important to know that when we need to work on it. Thanks, Amy, for your vulnerability here. I know I need to work on mine too, and it's something that I believe I am working on, but it's a process, right? And each of our experiences bring us to who we are today, whether those experiences were bad or good. Diane, definitely a lifelong work in progress. And I think it's because we're landing on different situations all the time. So if we know this about ourselves, we can reflect on our changes that we need, and And those positive options become more clear when we're in a heated moment. Now, if we don't know, it would be maybe a good time for a SWOT analysis on our communication. We've talked about SWOT analysis in the past, our strength, weakness, opportunities, and threats. And often we look at it in the larger sense of an organization or as a department, or even all of our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. But have you ever drilled it right down to communication and looked at your communication strengths, your communication opportunities, weaknesses, and threats? And that would be my invitation for you today, is to take a communication, think of your communication skill set, grab a piece of paper, make 4 columns or however you want to do it, make an X in the middle and go for it, and look at what are you good at and what are those things that you know you need to work on, and then find ways to do that. So the truth is, we're all unicorns. Understanding our own communication skills and our team members will help us to deliver better feedback in both positive and corrective ways. And if we take a look at this slide here, this is something I could probably go for a good 3 hours on without taking a breath. So I won't do that for you today. I'll spare you that punishment. But if we look at these 4 birds, let's take a look at the dove. That's the one that's calling out the most. This communication style is someone who's compassionate, they're open, they may be indirect. Maybe indirect, did you hear that? Yeah, they are indirect. Empathetic, harmonious, they dislike conflict, they like things and people to be happy, and may even set aside their own desires for the sake of the group. Okay, so they're the peacemakers. Below we have the owl. I saw a guy like this the other day, just yesterday on the highway. It was so beautiful. But anyway, the owl are thinkers. Okay, people that are analyzers, organized, logical in their thinking. They're more guarded and also indirect in their communication. They take their time getting things done, but it's done correctly. Let's move beside him to the eagle. The eagle is someone who is a direct communicator and also guarded. So types of characteristics or behaviors that we would see from this communication style would be get her done, business-like, less feelings, more facts, this sort of thing. And then above that are peacock, our socializers, those who are open and direct. They like things to be spontaneous, fun. They're great at starting projects. And so understanding our own communication style is really important. For example, for myself, as a blend of peacock and eagle, I'm learning I'm more eagle than peacock, maybe that's age. Working with my husband, who is the exact opposite, right? My husband is a blend of owl and dove. And so because I know that, and hopefully he's not listening, that I am able to, you know, when I want something done, I try to apply some of those logical thinkings, which is unnatural for me. But in that way, I'm able to get to his communication style. So the benefit of knowing our own style is so that we can, for example, for me, de-harshify it when I'm working with someone who's a dove or an owl, maybe adding a bit more logic and reason to that. And when I'm working with someone who's more of a peacock, I can let them have the stage, even though part of me really wants it. So I know those strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities and threats that I have. And so being able to make those adjustments is really, really important. So as you can tell, like I said, I could go on for days about this, but it's something to consider. What is your communication style? And how can you adjust it to meet the needs of the people on your team or those that you're giving feedback to? Now, it's about understanding who we are so that we can work with them. So as I said earlier, knowing what communication style works best for us and then adjusting that for them. And as a good coach or as a leader, knowing the learning style of the people that you are coaching is also crucial to the success of your trainees. So communication style plus learning style, we've got it made in the shade. right? We know that feedback is a powerful tool, and when delivered effectively, it improves results and also strengthens relationships. So it's not just about the good feelings that we get with our people and they feel happy and they know that they've done something wrong or something right, but it's also about the results. And I believe in business, we are results driven, are we not? Our people bring us those results. The other side of that is that when it is delivered poorly, it can cause morale issues, continuous errors, as well as conflict. Effective feedback must be given for the right reasons. The feedback should be of value to the person and it should always be helpful. I've been in a place of work back when I first started Big Girl Jobs, many years ago, where a colleague of mine received feedback that looks like crap, fix it. Friends, that is not feedback, right? We should be able to do something with the information that we're given. Feedback also must be given at appropriate time. Have any of you ever received feedback at an inappropriate time where either you were still upset to the point where you weren't able to discuss the issue, or that your person giving the feedback was also in that state? Yeah, thanks, Amy, very much so. Same here, not great. Yeah. If we're still upset, guess what? Thinking brain's not turned on. And that's kind of a problem, right? If we're not able to clearly communicate, we may say things that are disrespectful and even cause damage to the relationship. So now not only are we dealing with a damaged relationship, we are breaking trust. You see how this is just like a big pile that's like loading and loading, right? So we have damaged trust, and there's a good chance that we're going to be dealing with someone who becomes apathetic or just doesn't have their heart in the work, and that's really damaging. Feedback about a particular event should be given promptly after the event, unless, like we said, we're too upset or they're too upset or too distracted to listen. We really should avoid this, which is not waiting until we have 100 issues to discuss. Try to keep them, these feedback sessions, to bite-sized pieces so that the people can actually understand what went wrong and how they can fix it. Now, maybe you've had an old lover where you're having some relationship issues and you start going back 6 months, a year ago, a year and a half ago. Well, you did this and this and this and this, right? We don't want that to happen in the workplace. We want to make sure that we're able to give that feedback after a singular event. And like we said, as close to it as possible so that we're clear in our minds about what happened. The mind is a fascinating thing, isn't it? Sometimes we insert what happened when it didn't really happen, or we forget things. Part of giving feedback, and this might be uncomfortable for some of us, especially if we land on that left side of communication, being more indirect, right? Our peacemakers and our thinkers, that being direct can feel uncomfortable sometimes, but in feedback, that's exactly what we want. We want to be clear and to the point and try not to sugarcoat the message or sandwich the corrective part between two sugary positive messages. So for example, I love how smiley and friendly you are. You totally messed up this entire project and didn't contact any of our customers, and now we've lost thousands of dollars. But you have a great sweater. Anybody ever had that happen to them where the corrective message got sandwiched between two sugary points and you know that crap is coming? I call it a crap sandwich. You know that when you hear that positive message that something crappy is about to happen and then it's going to land on the happy. And for some of us, we're like, but Carrie, that's exactly how I give feedback. And I'm going to tell you that that's probably because it feels better for you. Okay? Because we don't want them to feel upset. We don't want them to be mad at us or to, feel awkward, or it feels awkward for us when we, have to deliver that corrective feedback. But the truth is, and what's been known to happen is that we walk away going, oh, I just got 2 positives, only 1 crappy part. I guess I'm doing great. And we go on our merry way and we don't bother working on that corrective part because, well, we're according to to math, that was 2 out of 3. That's a pass. I'm doing okay. And so what I would suggest, and this might take a bit of work, is an open face crap sandwich where, yeah, we can say what they're doing great, but let's work on for real life that bad stuff, like the stuff we want to correct. Okay, Heather, let's see. Yes, feedback sandwich, remember learning that, but for me, it just doesn't work. I find it, yeah, it can. And so it's just, again, food for thought, consider it, and then um, you got to be you. So you definitely still need to be who you are, but making sure if we are giving the crap sandwich, that making sure that we're following up on the corrective message in the middle. So we're not just letting it slide, following up and providing the support that they need. So feedback, the other point is to be specific and tell them what you saw and use clear examples. We're focusing on the behavior and not the person. And this is where being descriptive and not evaluative is so important. And we'll get it into that in just a moment on descriptive versus evaluative. So our feedback is actionable. Like I said, that person, that colleague of mine, just like crap, fix it. Well, there's nothing actionable on that. It doesn't tell me what part you don't like, what could have been done differently, right? We need to be able to do something with what the information that we're given as people that are receiving the feedback, and those of us giving it. There should be some actionable part and a follow-up plan. So like I said, if we are still going to stick with praise, encourage, praise, sometimes we call it that, PEP, then we need to have that follow-up plan. Ooh, Melissa, that's not good, right? So what if someone avoids meetings so it leaves it piled up and multiple things happened? Well, I would say that's a big girl conversation. That, especially during this time where we're not seeing people face to face, that can be really challenging because already I've told myself a story with this example that you're giving me that this person doesn't want to deal with it. And that may or may not be true. There could be mental health issues going on, other things happening in their lives. I want to know why. So for me, that would be hey, I've noticed that you've been missing meetings. Do we know that they're actually avoiding them, or is that our interpretation? Have they missed them? Did they forget them? There's a lot of different reasons. That's one I think we could spend some time on. That would be very interesting. Let's pause on that for just a second and talk about this descriptive versus evaluative. So when you say someone avoids the meeting, do we know that they're avoiding it? That would be my first question. So when we look at giving feedback that's descriptive versus evaluative, descriptive feedback is fact-based and addresses a specific behavior. It's observable, indisputable fact. There are times where I wonder, when we're giving the feedback, is it important? Is it important enough that we need to deliver the feedback? Is it something that they're doing wrong? Is it affecting others? Is it causing morale issues? Because if we're leaving things and things are getting piled up, is there anything that we can cut off that slate and move forward? And that's something I wouldn't be able to answer for you. But I'm going to give you a couple examples here of what descriptive feedback looks like. You were late 3 times last month. You cut this sheet 4 inches too long. You raised your voice at me. Now, those are descriptions. They are measurable, right? We can tell there were 3 times. We can see that. We can track it. Sheet 4 inches too long. We can measure that with a measuring tape. And you raised your voice at me. So we can tell when, someone's voice has gotten louder. Now, the difference is evaluative. So you were late 3 times last month versus you are always late, you don't care about your work. Or the description is you cut the sheet 4 inches too long versus you don't pay attention when you cut sheets. You seeing the difference between the two? And even this last one, you were mad at me versus you raised your voice. Those are differences. And so evaluative, these are evaluative feedback, involves judgments, opinions, and the story we tell ourselves. So being mindful that the feedback we're giving isn't just based in stories that we tell ourselves. It's based on actual real events that we've seen. And they weren't just something that someone else told us or the gossip around the water cooler, that they're based in fact. And sometimes that takes time. That means doing homework. Now, we're kind of running out of time here today, guys. This is a topic that like I said, I could go on and on about, and I hope you don't mind. I might steal 2 minutes of your time, and you can feel free to dump off if you have to go, but to look at the different types of feedback and how we can deliver them. So positive or motivational feedback is one of the best ways we can help people to learn and also to encourage some of that good behavior we're seeing. Often we're so focused on correcting things that we miss the opportunity to build that confidence by praising what went right. So again, the process, focus on specific behaviors, stick to the facts, and describe the impact. So for example, describe the impact. Thank you so much, Sally, for staying late and taking that extra shift. Because you did that, we were able to process more orders and our customers are happy. Often we skip describing the impact because maybe we don't feel it's necessary, but it can be a real way for them to connect what they've done to the rest of the business. So let's say you have someone who works overtime, in my example. You know, for them, maybe it's like, great, I'm getting overtime, I'm going to get extra couple bucks on my paycheck, but helping them to see how that impacts the larger picture, right? Or the larger community or organization can be really beneficial, and we'll see more of that behavior. So it helps the person to get better at their job. It focuses on what needs to be done better and why and how to do it in this corrective feedback. So corrective feedback, this is the one that can feel kind of yucky. I want to tell you, we're going to follow a similar process, right? We're focusing on the behavior, we're sticking to the facts and describing the impact. The feedback should also be given as soon as possible, like we said, and to make sure that if either one of us are upset, let's give it a little bit of breathing time before we provide the feedback. Positive feedback is, like I said earlier, this is the process, but here are two things that I wanted to add. So we're specific and direct, we stick to the facts and describe the impact, but also express confidence in future behaviors. So in that example that I made up for you about Sally staying late, we described the impact, we got the orders out. I know I can count on you in the future, and I'm so thankful that you're part of our team. It's not much more than, hey, thanks for staying. It's just connecting with what they're doing to what we're doing as an organization. And corrective feedback, here it is laid out. So being specific and direct, stick to the facts. A huge part, again, is focusing on how the behavior has impacted you, your department, the company, and even them, right? How that behavior has made an impact in all those different areas. Here's the thing, asking for input and using an empowering question. Now, oftentimes what we want to say for the empowering question is, what in the world were you thinking? Doesn't sound too empowering to me. And so finding out what went wrong, knowing our own communication style. So as someone who is more direct, I would, in working with someone who's indirect, might soften that message just a bit. And even though I want to say, what were you thinking? I can still ask that, but using a different language. So something like, I see that this happened. Can you tell me your thinking process? Or can you tell me what went wrong or what happened? As opposed to, what were you thinking? Now, what's going to make something empowering or disempowering? There can be a gray area there. Part of it is, what kind of history do we already have? What's my body language like when I'm asking this question? And tone. Thanks, Chantal. It's a good one. Can you help me understand? Yeah, I'm a big believer of putting it back on ourselves, right? As leaders, to say, I want to make sure that I understood what happened correctly. Can you help me understand what happened? Put it back on you as opposed to focusing on them. So we still want that input. We want to use an empowering question. Help me understand is a great one. And focus on the solution. Let's get out of the past. Yes, this happened. Yes, it went wrong. We all know that it was bad. We all know that it needs to change. And now let's focus on the solution. We want to keep moving our people forward and not get lost in the event that happened. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Does anybody have a great way to do that, to be able to help move their people forward and focusing on the solution? Part of this will be the work that you've done before corrective feedback. So building that trust with people, understanding who they are, and getting to know them one-on-one. And that can be tricky, especially I know some of you that will be, hire for the summer, things like that. It can be really hard to build that relationship right off the hop. If we can take the time at the beginning to build that relationship, when we get to the focus on the solution part, it will be two-way dialogue as opposed to us just telling them what the solution is. And there may be times where we have to do that, but really what we want is that effective and clear communication that is giving us a solution where both people are involved and we're not just dictating to them what that solution is. We still want to always give appreciation and support. Diane, you're absolutely right. It's spending one-on-one time when they're having a bad day, meeting with them as a group, and really building that team. And that's a huge difference between teams and groups, right? Is that we've spent the time to get to know them and valuing the person more than the project. Absolutely. I think especially in this COVID time, I didn't want to use the word, guys, we're so sick and tired of hearing about it, but the truth is we are in a unique situation. And right now, we need to value the people more than the project 100%. When we get lost in the project, we forget that the people are the ones driving the project. And it's a true fact. The last point here is plan to follow up. So no matter what happened, our corrective feedback, what went wrong, we focus on the solution, give appreciation and support. If we do not follow up, it's like eating the bottom of an ice cream cone on a hot day and just letting it fall out. That's sad, right? So when we follow up, we make sure that they feel supported. We find out if there's any gaps in their training and any other types of supports that they need. So maybe it's a work buddy or something like that, or relearning a process. It's a big one. All too often, wrong thinking is at play that can lead us to believe that talking is communication and poor listening skills are effective. We really, in delivering feedback, need to understand um, our listening skills. So we've said earlier communication, and I know for myself, I was even thinking of the way that we communicate, the way that we deliver the message, but what about the way that we receive a message? So even in asking, can you help me understand? We are actually listening. We're trying to find out what actually happened. And those listening skills come from 2 ears, 2 eyes, and 1 heart, and zipping the lips so that we can allow that person to have their say, their side of the story, because sometimes what we've seen and what they've understood what happened can be 2 totally different stories. And so being able to have that clear communication and make sure that our listening skills are up to par. If the only thing that team members choose to change was their willingness to ask questions in aid of clarity, this would have a dramatic positive effect on the workplace. How many of you would say that that's true? Our willingness to ask questions. I believe that it's it can be such a vulnerable thing to ask questions. Many of us will say, well, I don't want to feel stupid, or I feel like they've explained this to me 500 times. Maybe they have, but maybe they didn't explain it in your way of learning. For example, I think of my son Wyatt when he was just learning his letters as a little guy, and we'd already had another kid, and that kid seemed to know his letters pretty well. So what's this kid's problem? I don't understand. I taught them the same way. That's why. So sometimes we'll hear people say, well, I've explained this 5 times and they're still not getting it. Guess what, folks? That's a you problem and not a them problem. If we don't understand the way that they learn, like we touched on earlier, their learning style, or the way that they communicate, we could say it 500 times and they still might not get it because we're not reaching them. And that goes back to Diane and what some of you are saying is spending that time with them, getting to know them so that you know how best to reach your people. And that will be so true in delivering effective feedback, that you'll be able to develop a relationship, have those tough conversations, I call them big boy or big girl conversations, and still maintain that relationship. I know that that's been true in my life as I've received feedback that was given from an authentic, genuine way in wanting for me as a person to get better. Also the project, but also valuing me, as Rochelle has said, that helped me to receive the feedback in a way that it was intended. And that's another topic. You'll find a bit more about that in our effective communication course starting tomorrow, about how we deliver that communication and aligning our intentions and our thoughts with our behavior. So if our intention is to help someone get better, be mindful of the words, tone, and body language that you're using when you're delivering that feedback so that you're able to build trust and create a more positive effect on your workplace. So thank you for tuning in, everybody. Thank you for your patience in me blabbering on here for an extra few minutes. Know that we will be following up with some feedback, and we always look forward to hearing from you. So if there's any thoughts, feelings, anything that's coming up with you with this feedback, please let us know. Please stay in contact. We really appreciate it. Hope everybody has an amazing day. Go forth and be awesome, my friends.